got the bedding and I stretch before I wash my face. This a vibe, about to take him to another place. And she said I'm Superman to a lowest lane. Side again, no wise enough, then ain't to clear the way. You gotta go, but to achieve it, you gon' need some faith. I'm trying to reach the top in each and every
Welcome
way.
back to another edition
Life is
of
not a game, it's
Off the
time to
Bench,
play.
presented
Let's
by
bow our head
Diplomacy
and pray.
Clothing. Negotiate with style with Diplomacy Clothing. Follow them on Instagram at Diplomacy Clothing, spelled as it sounds. We've got a stacked show for you guys today. We've got the UFC 252 results from Stipe and DC. We've got playoff news. An 8th seed in the West has been locked. The Lakers will know who they're playing. A firing in the NBA also occurred. A head coach that was in the bubble no longer has a job. And a team came out of nowhere in the bubble and shocked us all. And lastly, a certain NFL quarterback has been cleared to return. But first, Barcelona has fired their coach Setien after losing 8-2 to Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Roland, this is huge because this entire year, from the restart to the Champions League, there's been rumors going amok about how the greatest soccer player in the world, Lionel Messi, could possibly leave Barcelona. And since Neymar's departure to PSG, Messi has not been the same player. Messi has been missing that Robin to his Batman. And the team has not been built the right way around Messi as it once was. And you don't blame Neymar and any other player that was there in the heyday of Barcelona's success leaving for greener pastures, because at the end of the day, it's Lionel Messi's team, not yours. It's the same thing with playing with LeBron. It's LeBron's team,
not yours.
Not yours. That's why Kyrie demanded a trade. That's why it's so difficult to play with someone of LeBron James' caliber, and why it's so difficult to play with someone of Messi's caliber. And this is huge because Messi could technically transfer, ask a demand to leave.
And that's what
not so much as in like the NBA sense where he can demand a trade, but I believe there might be an opt-out for he could hit the transfer window and decide to leave and entertain other clubs.
Yeah, from what I believe is Messi told Barcelona, I want out.
Yep. If his team is not better, he wants out.
Yeah. Like, hey, I'm going to give you guys this time period to reflect, regroup, and improve. And it reminds me of the 2000 and, what year was that, right before LeBron left? 2008, 2009, yes. Cleveland Cavaliers, when LeBron was clearly frustrated. He openly acknowledged, hey, I would like to get another running mate here. And they got a washed up Shaq, and didn't do much of anything. They tried bringing in a couple other role players that didn't do anything. When your second best player is Boogie, what's the name? Booger Williams or something. You got Daniel Gibson, Boogie Gibson. There we go. When he's your second best player, you want out. And Messi, like you said, George, had always at some point in time early in his career, he had that second fallback player. Someone he could rely on and be like, okay, he's going to help me. Nemir, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of great help. But you look at it like Messi's in that point now where he's like, okay, I'm weathering a lot of the responsibilities. And to Messi's credit, he's not looking bad. It's not like Messi could be the one they're losing, So he's telling Barcelona, hey, improve my situation or I want out.
And the thing is, Messi is getting in that age where he could be in the twilight of his soccer career.
Sure.
And a lot of soccer players know once you're in your 30s, your playing days are numbered. And it's much like the NFL where if you're a quarterback, once you hit those 30s, unless you're winning and constantly in the playoffs, your days are numbered. Same thing with if you're a running back especially. Once you hit that age 30, your value diminishes.
Diminished immediately.
And Messi is looking at what PSG is doing, Paris Saint-Germain, with Neymar, who went there. Now they have Mbappe, who's now they have a Batman and Robin, and they're in the semifinals. They could go on to the finals and win the whole Champions League.
And win.
And to Bayern's credit, the Bundesliga, very well known for their defensive teams. Those teams are very defensive heavy. Not much more offense, but they will fight you on the box. They'll fight you on the pitch. And
very gritty.
And yes, very gritty. And yeah, you could say it was all because of Bayern, but looking at that game, Barcelona was just not prepared.
Yeah.
Once they locked down Messi, no one else stepped up, and you have Griezmann there, who could theoretically is could be the Robin to Messi's Batman, but they're both ball dominant players, and
Where
it was not a good fit from the get go.
nope.
And Messi could very well he could very well leave Barcelona, and Barcelona has made it very clear from the loss. Everyone's up for grabs. Anyone can get transferred. We're trying to keep Messi here for life. Everyone is for sale, and you have to wonder what the market is for everyone else. Who can Barcelona bring in that can go under Messi's wing and accept
Wayne
a diminished role versus a role they would have
being
had
the
on a
star.
different club where they
Yeah.
could have been the primary ball handler.
I like real quick, George.
Yeah.
I just have to say I love the analogy you made to LeBron James because it's very much like playing with LeBron James in soccer.
Yes.
You have to be willing to suffice, and like it may even take that a year to understand, like how when Dwayne Wade first brought LeBron into Miami, Dwayne Wade was still trying to be Dwayne Wade, and it wasn't until when Dwayne Wade openly acknowledged, "Hey, LeBron, we're not going to win this thing without you.
Right.
You have to be the guy." And it might be the same thing where, okay, they're bringing somebody in to Barcelona to help Messi out. And it could take that first year of balancing, maybe even to the point where Messi looks at the other guy and like, hey, you have to be the guy. Like maybe Messi tells him, like, we won this thing because of you. And Messi just goes out there and does what he does, but also instills that confidence in the next player up, whoever they bring in to be his sidekick, to help them bring in the championship. But like you said, you lose 8-2, George. It's not just
that's an embarrassing loss.
Not just the defense that did that.
They
scored 8 goals.
Embarrassing loss, no matter what you look at it. That's like if in baseball you let a team score 10 plus runs on you. That's like a Peyton Manning against the Jets in the playoffs, 41-0.
Yeah,
it's that kind of losses where it's like either you can build from this or this breaks you.
Let it break you.
Well, moving on to UFC, we have
okay. All right.
Cormier. Just a hell of a fight on UFC 252.
Fight of the year, in my opinion, right now. If I had to vote right now, probably fight of the year. Great fight.
Yeah, afterwards, I know we both mentioned off camera that both of them got poked in the eye, but Cormier looked like he got the worst end of it. When he was being interviewed by Joe Rogan, he was just saying, it's black. I can't see out my eye. I can't see out of my left eye.
It was clear.
Yeah,
and it was clear during the fight that his vision was stunted. Like there was just clear shots. Stipe was just coming in, just tapping him, and DC couldn't react fast enough because he couldn't really see it.
Yeah.
We did talk off air about how they both got poked in the eye, and that one was a warning to Stipe, one was a warning to DC. The second poke, the reason why a lot of people, I guess, don't notice is Stipe, originally when it happened, DC said, I got poked in my eye at the end of the round. The ref, and credit to the ref, because mid-fight, you hear somebody saying, I got poked in my eye. It's easy to be like, I just warned you about that, lose points, It was a back and forth fight, George. And I mean, DC's vision was compromised before that poke, so it was already a little bit tough for him to see. The poke just didn't help.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a shame that that's how it ended for Cormier, but he's going to enjoy retirement now. I mean, this is it.
Hall of Famer
for sure.
5
now,
top.
Dana White is mentioning how they're thinking about bringing back John Jones.
Yes.
So what does this Stipe victory mean for a possible John Jones return?
I think Dana mentioned it, but he also said Ngannou gets next shot. Right. So we will be seeing Stipe versus Francis Part 2 whenever Stipe is ready to go again. He's a firefighter, so he got obligations there. He wants to. He openly said, "I want to spend time with my daughter and his family." Respect, all respectful. So I guess whenever Stipe is ready to step in there and fight again, we'll see him fight Francis. Here the thing is we don't know how long that's going to be. And this is something I thought about, George, of Okay, say Stipe wants to take 8 months off. Let's just say, hypothetically, that's the time period he takes off before we see him fight again. Why not have Francis versus Jones?
That could be
for that number one contendership.
Yeah.
If that's what's going, if that's how it's going to be, like
especially if it's a long period between fights.
Yeah, like
6 to 8
okay,
months.
like we can go. Let's say they have that fight 4 months into Stipe's 8 months off. So then we only see, we're all right. 4 months after that, we get the winner of that fight versus Stipe. And I know Jones mentioned to Francis before, hey, let's do this, big fella. And Francis said, let's do it. So, they talked. There has been back and forth there. John Jones at heavyweight is exciting to mention because he's ran through that light heavyweight division once over already. And he's beat the new guys, some of the newer guys they brought up, like a Dominic Reyes.
Yep.
He's obviously the old guys, the people of his era. So it's like there's no one else there for us to want to watch John Jones fight. It's a stagnant. He's staggered. Like it's the same thing when GSP retired. We've seen him beat everybody there was to beat. That's why he retired. But great for Stipe. Great victory for Stipe.
Definitely a great victory for him.
He's easily, I believe now, the greatest heavyweight the UFC has ever had. To ever walk the face of the earth. He's that guy. DC will be remembered as sad as it is to say, the second best heavyweight of all time, but easily a top 5, top 10 fighter of all time. Hopefully he enjoys retirement.
There was definitely another match on a fighter that we recently spoke about when we had Matt on the show.
Oh yes,
Mr. O'Malley had a
yes.
fight. So let's go over that one real quick. I'll let you go over first.
Okay, all right. Well, right off the grip, you can tell, and George, it's so hard to watch something like sports when you're no fan, because the fans would make the thing that much better. But let me tell you, when Sugar came out, there was this tension in the air. There was that, oh shit, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, this might be his crowning moment. Like, everybody was waiting because Cheeto Vera, Marlon Vera, whatever you want to pronounce him as, is no slouch. And he should be on a 7-fight win streak. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for his last loss that we mentioned in that Matt video with back, you guys can check that out on the channel. Cheeto Vera should be on as equal as a win streak as Sugar Sean O'Malley was coming in. But instead, he lost his last fight in what I think was a robbery. And he comes out and he initially takes one big shot from Sean O'Malley early in the fight, and it was like, okay. But he shook it off. He didn't really let that stagger him. But I would say before the injury happened with O'Malley it was an even fight, but then O'Malley got injured.
Yeah.
And it was clear as day that he was limping. He was trying to cover up the leg. He wasn't trying to expose the leg. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until him and Vera clinched up when O'Malley fell, and Vera, smartly took advantage of that situation, came down, got on top of him, landed some nasty elbows.
Yep.
And official, a lot of people would argue, oh my gosh, this was stopped way too early. Vera was not going to let. I know it was like 15 seconds left in the fight, but O'Malley wasn't getting back up.
No, not at all. It was very obvious.
If Herb Dean didn't call it, he would have just got even more hurt. Yeah. What would we want to see a second round for if it was going to be a limited Sean O'Malley versus Chico Vera?
Yeah, you're pretty much sending. If there's another round, if you let it go another round, you're pretty much sending O'Malley there to die. Basically.
Die. Yeah, literally.
He's clearly already hurt.
Herb Dean did exactly the right thing. Stopped the fight. Got O'Malley out of there before any real damage could be dealt. But credit to Vera.
He's an up and coming star, and you need him. He can take this loss. But
and that's what I'm saying.
You need him for future matches. You can't have him seriously injured.
Because him losing, George, doesn't hurt his popularity. There is still going to be a bunch of fighters out there drooling to fight Sean O'Malley when he returns. Yeah. Now, they didn't list the type of injury he has. We don't know if it was an ACL, a knee. What happened? Was it the foot? Like calf? What? We don't know the injury to the extent of the injury. But what we do know is Sean O'Malley is unfortunately gaining this label of being an injury-prone fighter, which is something you never want to be in the fight game. You never want to be listed as injury-prone. But when this is your second major injury and in a big fight in a co-main event slot,
Yep.
Dana's going to be hesitant to give you another co-main event slot again. I just hope, I know we got to wrap this up, but
Yeah.
I just hope that Sean O'Malley doesn't let this loss hinder his rise. Because although I wasn't with Matt and he's the future of the UFC, I wasn't that high on praise on the guy. I do believe he's a top 5 fighter in the division.
Yeah, as long as he can stay healthy, and that's the big issue, you know.
That he could contend for championships and stuff, but we need him healthy.
Yeah, and hopefully, at the time of recording right now, we don't know the results of any testing they've done with him, so we have no idea how severe the injury is.
Yeah.
Possibly once our listeners are hearing this, they may have the answer, but hopefully, if he can stay healthy, he can definitely become that main eventer that Dana wants him to be. But someone who really stepped up, despite all the criticisms, Mr. Damian Lillard. Now, this man said it's Dame time in Orlando, and we are going to first clinch the 8th seed, which is super important in this NBA bubble format.
Yeah.
And then, sadly, we'll talk about this team later, the Suns missed out on the 9th seed to the Grizzlies, who all of a sudden decided to win games after losing the first couple in the bubble. And we had an epic playing game. Epic. This was playoff. Even though there was no wins, it wasn't like a series, but the playoff atmosphere was there. John Morant showed up. He had a career high. And
John Morant, George, is a star. This kid is he is cold. Like, he reminds me of the Damian Lillard when we first seen Dame step on the scene, and we're just like, man, this guy can bowl. You
say that, and I got 2 things from this. First, it's John Morant. If I'm a Memphis Grizzlies fan, I'm 1,000% hype about the future of this team. And I see John Morant, not more of Dame Lillard, but I see him as the Westbrook.
Oh yeah, no.
This man can dominate that game, and he dominated that game for the Grizzlies.
And George, they were without their second best player, Jared Jackson.
Yep, and I was telling my friend that I was watching it with. I'm like, dude, this team is playing so well with their big men, and they don't even have their best big man out there.
On the court, yeah.
And I love Jared Jackson. I love that Morant and Jackson combo they got going and that they're building. But if I'm a Memphis Grizzlies fan, I am hyped. And in a few years, you never know what could happen. OKC could just trade Chris Paul and use those draft picks and rebuild.
If Memphis could get themselves a shooter in there, George, like an actual 3-point shooter to help space, for John Morant, my gosh.
They need a solid 2 or a wing. They need a wing player.
Yeah,
that can expand the court. Because one thing I saw as well, this team has really high basketball IQ and court vision.
Oh, yeah.
And I love seeing it. And Portland had a lot of issues defending that, especially when you have Melo, who, despite his scoring prowess, and we all know if Melo can drop 20 on you in a heartbeat. But when it comes to defense, he'll give you that 3-point shot, and more than likely you might knock it down. And we saw that a lot in that playing game. But now, most importantly for the Blazers, they play a Lakers team led by LeBron James and Anthony Davis, who's only been to the playoffs once. And if I'm the Lakers fan, I'm shaking in my boots, because what should have been a 4-0 sweep on the Grizzlies with just John Morant getting playoff experience is now going to possibly be a 7-game series.
Now, I was just about to ask you, is that what you're thinking, 7 games?
I'm thinking it might be 7 games, and honestly, at this point, I know I picked the Clippers to make the finals, but we could see an upset in the first round because Lillard is hungry and Melo is hungry, and we all know hungry Melo is.
Didn't I tell you guys George is good for a hot taking episode? Didn't I already tell you?
Melo is this is the first time since the OKC days that he made the playoffs, and the first time that there's a legitimate threat since he was a New York Knick.
So I agree with you there, George. I'm just gonna say I'll say 5 to 6 tough games.
That's disrespectful to the Blazers.
But hear me out, George. Hear me out. Let me tell you why. Because although I can agree that the Lakers have not been playing the hottest in the bubble, but they came out in the very first game and took care of everybody's consensus championship pick, the Los Angeles Clippers. They took care of them, went out there and did what they did. Then they played well, good enough actually to clinch the number 1 seed. And then you know what happened, George? I think they took it easy. They said, okay, what else do we have to play for?
Right.
Nothing. So why do I need LeBron James exerting all this energy, playing defense and offense, leading my team in assists and scoring, and Anthony Davis doing, I don't need you taking additional punishment down there in the paint if we already locked up what we needed to lock up. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions in what's going on with the Lakers. Sure, they've never been a great three-point shooting team.
Yeah.
No. But they can hit the three. And they defend great. They're, in my opinion, once you remove the teams like the Milwaukees and the Clippers, and I know they're probably a better team defensively than the Sixers and the Heat, but those are gritty defenses, to say the least. They're probably the third best defensive team, second best defensive team in the bubble.
I believe so.
There's in Portland, as you pointed out, George, they struggle to defend.
Yes.
You got CJ McCollum playing the 2 guard, and he struggles to defend. Damian Lillard doesn't even look like he cares about defense. And then Carmelo Anthony, like you said, will give up the easy 3, whether it's in the corner or on the wing. And if there's one thing we know about Danny Green, he may not care about the regular season. He may not play great in the regular season, but once we get playoffs,
yeah.
Danny Green becomes Kyle Korver. Like he just don't miss.
And I think the biggest X factor no one's talking about, because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, the X factor is like LeBron James, it's Anthony Davis, it's Lillard."
No.
I think the X factor is Frank Vogel.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Because he was brought in because he's a defensive-minded coach.
And he got the team
issue with LeBron's first year is that they brought a lot of players and no one played defense. Outside of LeBron James, no one played defense.
Nope.
Now, they need to be able to lock down Damian Lillard. And Memphis tried their hardest to lock him down. But there were a lot of three-point plays that
George,
Lillard got.
Quick thought before I let you finish this. Do you think Memphis is going to regret not putting Ja on Dame instead of putting Ja on CJ?
No, I mean I think that a solid game plan. They were in it till the very end, and if it wasn't for Melo clutching up and just being open, and that's the biggest mistake I think they had. They were so worried about Lillard just going off that they forgot Melo can also hit big shots in the clutch, and that he's done this pretty much his entire career from Denver all the way till now, and that's really what I think did them in like the last 2 minutes, because Melo really came through. He hit the clutch mid range, a couple of clutch threes, especially the clutch 3 to put him up 6.
Which
seal it.
In my extension, won them the game.
It won them the game.
Yeah.
And I think Memphis will be fine. Obviously, they wish Jaren Jackson would have played, because that would have made a whole other difference, especially with and I noticed, especially with the Blazers, when Hassan Whiteside is in the game.
And I was just about
the whole defense just.
Glad you mentioned that, George, because and you mentioned your key being Frank Vogel. My key is going to be Hassan Whiteside, and the reason why it's Hassan Whiteside, because Hassan Whiteside, I think, is going to have to play more minutes than Nurkic. Now Nurkic is just the better center. Nobody going to get that mistaken.
But the issue is he's been playing way too much, too many minutes. He's exhausted.
And he defensively is not the same as a Hassan Whiteside.
Right.
Hassan Whiteside, I don't think many people know this, led the league in blocks. Mm-hmm. He is a potent defender.
Yeah.
And what the one thing the Lakers have on majority of teams in the NBA is size.
Yes. So
what the Blazers are going to need to do is to counteract that size is play a good chunk of minutes here on Hassan Whiteside and rely on Hassan Whiteside literally to be the defensive anchor that challenges all those shots from Anthony Davis, LeBron, and Dwight Howard and the JaVale McGee's who live at the paint. Now I'm not saying my fear is Hassan Whiteside, who's known to be an emotional player, might let his emotions get the best of him. And I can see that being the falter of the reason of why Portland can't make this game a 7-game series. Because offensively, they can do it. You know, I'm pretty sure they're not going to put LeBron on Damian Lillard. He might guard CJ McCollum. You know, let's go best case scenario, he guards CJ McCollum. We would assume CJ McCollum would struggle to score on a late level of LeBron James.
Yeah.
We would assume that. So then that would put a lot more additional stress on Dame Lillard. The question is, now that Avery Bradley's not playing for the Lakers, is do you trust Danny Green to really slow down Damian Lillard? Because I do not.
And the Lakers, they're not going to trust J.R. Smith to defend anyone. He's literally there.
J.R. Smith ain't even seeing minutes. Yeah, he's not even seeing minutes.
He's not even seeing minutes, so he's just a body.
Like you said, Frank Vogel's a very defensive mind, and J.R. Smith, when he wants to play defense, can play defense. Mm-hmm. Problem is, at his current age and getting back in basketball shape, I don't see that happening.
Now, I agree with you that Hassan Whiteside is going to be a factor. But my issue is your thought process works if you're benching Nurkic for Whiteside.
Oh, no, I'm not benching him. No. I
mean, not benching him like to start. I'm saying to rotate. So Hassan Whiteside comes in for Nurkic, and Nurkic takes the seat.
Well, maybe here's the thing, George. You could probably play Nurkic and Hassan Whiteside together because
I was just about to get to that.
Because the Lakers play AD in the White or AD and JaVale, you know, so there's usually two bigs on the court with the Lakers. So Portland probably can get away with playing Nurkic at the 4. Probably.
They could, but what I've noticed in the Memphis playing game is that their transition defense mostly struggles. They suffer when both Whiteside and Nurkic are
for sure.
on the
you got two slow guys trying to get up the court.
It looks better when one or the other is on there, but when both of them are together at the same time, something about their defense just
they give up too many open shots,
and that's the problem. And I don't see, and that's the biggest X factor, I think, just in concurrence with you, where it's just how can Portland game plan this? Because Nurkic has played a ton of minutes, too many minutes,
a whole lot,
too many minutes, honestly. Especially with all the personal stuff he's dealing with, he's been playing he's exhausted. Even Mike Breen and Mark Jackson was saying during the game that Nurkic is tired. Like he needs rest. You need to have Hassan Whiteside needs to step up and not get emotional, not do stupid fouls to keep Nurkic on the bench so he can catch his breath for the fourth quarter.
If there's a group who can keep Hassan Whiteside's emotions in check, I think it would be this Blazer team with Damian Lillard being a very fiery, but calm-headed. You know, you don't see Damian Lillard getting stupid technicals. You know, now Carmelo in his old day used to get stupid technicals. We can admit to that. But he's a great leader. I think he would take Hassan Whiteside and be like, "Hey, listen, big fella, we need you. We stand no chance if you're not in this game. We need you." And he would help Hassan Whiteside. I think. I'm not saying Hassan Whiteside has to score like double-digit points.
No,
I'm not even saying he has to block 18 shots for them to win.
He just needs to be the rim protector.
Yes, he just has to be
10 for 10 or 12 for 10. Honestly, would be just fine.
Yeah,
just fine. He doesn't need to go for like what Nurkic did and went 25 for 21.
No,
he doesn't need to do all that. He just needs to protect the paint, rebound when he can, smack it to his teammates, and just protect the paint. That's it. Yeah. That's all your job. Don't let AD disrespect you. Don't let Dwight Howard disrespect. Don't even let LeBron think about
challenge everything.
Challenge everything. And moving on, because this is when I saw that the Grizzlies locked up the 9th seed, I was disappointed. I pulled the Yugi, where I was just like, it should have been them. Why? Because Devin Booker played his ass off. And we both predicted that, the Suns do have a chance, but for them to go 8-0 would have been highly unlikely. And look at what they did. They went 8-0, and they were basically, a half game back from the 9th seed?
George, I agree, man.
And from the beginning of this bubble, all the lottery teams that didn't get the invitation, there was a lot of talk about, they should all your Knicks, the Bulls, try to get a trade for Devin Booker because they're not going to make the playoffs. They're losing every year. They don't have a solid core. The experiment with Ayton and Booker isn't working. It's just get Booker out of Phoenix. And this
Can we start a
team,
hashtag for that?
there was a hashtag, I believe, for it.
Oh,
And all these lottery teams, all their fan base were like, trade for Booker. We had to trade all the first round picks, trade the entire team for Devin Booker. And now they go 8-0 in the bubble. They build a lot of confidence for next year because they were right there for the play-in game.
and great job from Monty Williams.
Yeah, Monty Williams, such an underrated coach.
Yeah, I know we want to give a lot of credit to Devin Booker, and that's he deserves.
Yeah.
Because he deserved every last bit of it. But Monty Williams, great coach. Because like you said, they could easily went in there with the New Orleans Pelicans thought process is.
We'll get to the Pelicans in just a minute.
You know, like we could just go out there and snake an egg and get a lottery pick.
They could have been the Wizards, where they were like, all right, well, technically you're like 3-4 games back from the 8 seed, so you technically could make a run. But what did the Wizards do? They just played their players, and then they went from being 3 games back from the 8 seed to 9 games back, and being eliminated that Tuesday when the bubble started Monday. But honestly, this 8-0 run tells me that 1, Devin Booker isn't demanding a trade. 2, Monty Williams is the right coach for this team. And now 3, what will that do for the free agency period in October, where teams are going to start looking at this team? Well, players are going to look at this Phoenix Suns team and saying, "Yo, Devin Booker, he turns it up."
Yo, George, real quick before I let you finish that, I like to just also point out to our viewership before DeAndre Ayton got injured. No, he got suspended early in the season.
Yes.
And before that happened, I believe they were sitting like 6th or 5th in the West before that happened.
Yep.
And then that happened. And then obviously they started losing a lot of games. They fell out of contention.
It was all on Booker's shoulders.
You know, but like you said, there was a lot of people, a lot of rumbling. How's this Ayton Booker going to work out? Is Monty Williams the right coach for the job? And as much credit we're going to give Devin Booker because, God, he deserves it. You know, like, because he is the one who scored those late buckets to beat the Clippers, you know, like to give his team the chance. But Monty Williams did a hell of a job coaching.
Yes.
DeAndre Ayton showed, hey, I am a great center.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, now you wonder what, maybe not even max free agents, but what key free agents, you know, like
now it's all about building that, like building around Ayton and Booker. Because clearly that's the duo that you need to build around.
If you feel you have 2 stars already on your team, you don't need to get a third. There's no reason to try to do that because that could only throw off the chemistry. But if they could go out there and receive, I would have loved to see them get a Chris Middleton last year in free agency. Because man, that would have been the ideal fit. You got a guy who's used to not being the number 1 guy. I don't need the ball, you know, but I'll play defense, shoot the 3, and be consistently like a 50-something field goal. You know, from the field, you know, like it's what they need. They need a guy like him to come in and be Devin Booker's running mate along with DeAndre Ayton to make their big 3. I don't think they're going to be able to sign like, hey, let me reach for the stars and try to sign like a Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, Kyrie Irving.
You know, like
Giannis when he becomes a free agent.
Yeah, basically.
But this team showed a lot of promise, which is what you want to see. And it got to a point where a lot of people were saying that the Grizzlies didn't deserve the 9th seed.
And I was just about to say that. How much better would it have been Suns, Devin Booker versus Damian Lillard, the 2 hottest players?
We would have had a 1-1. We would have had a solid. It would have gone more than the 1 game. I think the Suns would have won the first game, and then it would have been close the second game.
I think Portland would have won.
Portland would have won, but like the Suns would have made it scary, where it's like,
it would have made it interesting.
The Suns need just 1 more win. Now they're 9-0 in the bubble.
And am I the only one who was secretly rooting for the Brooklyn Nets to beat the Trailblazers?
Yeah.
I was kind of.
They were low key rooting for the Nets.
As hot as Damian Lillard was that night, Karis LeVert, man,
he's gonna be the key. And I pray to God to the basketball gods, that Karis LeVert does not get traded for a third superstar.
No,
because he's gonna be needed
Kyrie,
when Kyrie and Kevin Durant come back.
And Kevin Durant.
He's gonna be the factor that LeBron never had with Cleveland and Miami. He's going to be that third guy that's homegrown.
Yeah.
That we all thought that it was Delvedova was going to be that guy, but he was only there for a year. Mario Chalmers we thought was going to be that guy, but he was very sporadic. But Levert is a homegrown guy. I mean, kudos to Kenny Atkinson for getting this guy.
Yeah.
But I hope that the Nets are smart enough not to trade their young assets.
He's a great 3-point shooter. Not great, but he's a good enough 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
And he's good at attacking the rim with a good enough handle and athletic enough to defend. Yep. Now, obviously, I believe Spencer Dinwiddie will be the third. I think he'll be the sixth man on the team. I think the starting lineup will be something along the lines of Kyrie, LeVert, KD. I don't know who will be the four, but DeAndre Jordan will probably be, or him or Jared Allen would decide the fifth.
Jared Allen has to be the starting five. I've been saying this since KD and Kyrie went there with DeAndre.
I agree. No, I agree.
Jared Allen has to be the starting five. He can't. There's no way that you can convince me that you're going to win a championship with DeAndre Jordan starting. At the center position.
I don't believe so because you can't play him late.
No.
But then we're talking about especially Dinwiddie coming off the bench, a Joe Harris coming off the bench.
And they nearly beat the Blazers too. Everyone thought that because the Nets had the 7th seed locked down, they were just going to play the Raptors. There's going to be
no reason for them to play. There was no reason
for them to play, and they brought it to the Blazers.
Caris LeVert said, "Hey, we're going to play.
We're going to play, and we're going to make it tough for you." But moving on to the last piece of NBA news. Surprise, surprise, the Pelicans are making terrible decisions. And they fired Alvin Gentry, and I am not happy. I am furious that Alvin Gentry got fired. It's not his fault, first off, that the team put a minutes restriction for Zion Williamson. Now, I understand in the regular season, before COVID happened, you want to put him on a minutes restriction. It's going to be fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But we're in a bubble. And we've spoken about this before. It's 8 games. He can't play without a minutes restriction for 8 fucking games. Then why do you have him? Why do you have him in Orlando?
Yeah.
Why are you having Orlando? It's just 8 games. If you don't trust him to be healthy in those 8 games, in that span of 8 games, in a controlled environment where you can be on top of his health, you can be on top of what he eats, to make sure that he doesn't break down easy. Why have him there? Just tell everyone else to come in and tell Zion to stay home. Because there was no point in bringing him here. You could have had the same result, just what we saw, especially with the Jazz game, on the first game of the NBA bubble restart.
It was the perfect game to show us the Pelicans' true colors.
Basically. And we saw that, it's a close game in the fourth, but Zion already had his 50 minutes. And sure, you can say there's some blame on Alvin Gentry, but when you give him a restriction of 50 minutes each game, obviously there's bad decisions are going to come out because you're only listening him for 50 minutes. Knowing how big of a factor and a game changer Zion Williamson is.
And honestly, sorry to cut you off, George.
Yeah, go ahead.
And honestly, if you even put him on the court just to be a decoy, he don't even have to do anything. If you just put him out there, the thought of Zion Williamson, who I think at that point in time already had 18 points on 2 missed shots or something like that. He was eating. So you automatically would make the Jazz be like, hey, we have to pay attention to this guy because he's giving us fits. Then that opens up the game for Brandon Ingram.
Brandon Ingram.
To get one-on-one matchups to do his thing. Drew Holiday to get one-on-one matchups to do his thing. It makes it that much more easier. But when you go out there and you're like, hey, it's a close game, we could put Zion out there, but minute restriction, come on, man.
Rather not. And honestly, what I feel terrible for Brandon Ingram because in this bubble, he showed me that Alvin Gentry can develop this young player. And Brandon Ingram went from being a possible bust
we talked about that.
A possible comeback player of the year. And sure, you can say, well, Lonzo Ball, he struggled. Well, Lonzo Ball, outside of his passing abilities, he's very limited. He can't.
Maybe it's just Lonzo Ball not being good. Maybe it's Lonzo not being good.
It could be that maybe his pops LeVar Ball hyped him up so much the Lakers and Magic Johnson were like, well, this kid is going to bring a lot of noise. We need a star player to lure in LeBron with a young team. And they bit the bullet at number 3, or number 2 or number 3. They could have just overvalued his stock because looking at him in LA and now in New Orleans, he still doesn't have a consistent shot. He's still working on that. And mind you, he's young. He can develop a shot still. But
he can't even finish in the paint.
Yeah. And at this point, his passing abilities are still questionable for a point guard, but he's young. He's young. It's going to take time. This isn't an overnight fix. This is a rebuilding team. But it could have been a 7 seed, quite honestly.
Yeah.
If you had Zion playing, because looking at what Dallas was doing, is the current number 7 seed. Outside of Luka and KP, they don't really have a team.
No, you look at Tim Hardaway, who in the regular season was playing well, but I don't know what happened in the bubble. He kind of took a step back and kind of looked like the Tim Hardaway of old, where it was like, yeah, he could play, but he's not consistent enough. Like you said, it was a lot of times it was just Luka and KP just doing their things that led Dallas to victories. New Orleans at worst could have at least been the 8th seed. They could have made playoffs if they just decided that, hey, we're going to play Zion.
And that's to fire Alvin Gentry over you deciding to give Zion.
You're not going to play him. Yeah,
you're not going to play him. You're only going to play him 15 minutes, and that's obviously going to hinder your chances to make the playoffs. You're only going to play 8 games.
Who they bringing in, George?
I'm assuming it's Kenny Atkinson, but the way the Brooklyn Nets players stabbed him in the back after building them and building that whole team and bringing in KD, bringing in Kyrie. I don't see how he gets the job. Mike Woodson could be a possibility, but there's really not a great Ty Lue, but he's already linked to Brooklyn, and KD and Kyrie really want him there.
So, Mark Jackson?
But Mark Jackson, see, I think the Mark Jackson train has left because I don't think he's coming back.
I think if he was going to come back, he would have came back by now. I won't rule it out.
With every NBA opening, his name is always there just because of what he did with the Warriors. And you got to give him respect for that. But I don't think he's coming back.
No.
But it's just who are you going to replace him with?
Jason Kidd.
Alvin Gentry. If you gave him free use for 8 games with Zion, Alvin Gentry could have been getting the praise that we just gave Monty Williams.
Yeah.
And Alvin Gentry, he's a really good coach. And people look at his record and look at the teams he's on, and the one consistent thing you see with his time in Phoenix and his time now in New Orleans is that they gave up on him too quickly. But Jorge, he's been there for 5 years in New Orleans. That's enough time. They gave him too much time. Well, you didn't have Zion those first 4 years.
No.
You had Anthony Davis. And when you had
Anthony Davis,
you brought in Boogie Cousins and you made the playoffs. So the guy knows he can coach. Everyone knows he can coach. But you gave up on him too quickly. If you're going to rebuild, and obviously with Zion, the team is a playoff-worthy team, then you keep the coach until you build this team. And it's like, well, obviously now it's not working because we have all these talented players, but now we're not making the playoffs. If this is 6, 7, this is like 1 or 2 years down the road where we're already starting to see Zion who he really is past the sophomore slump. Now we're starting to see like if Brandon Ingram really is the Brandon Ingram we saw in the bubble. Then it's like, all right, I understand. Maybe we can go in a different direction. But now, of all times, Kenny Atkinson, could he do it? Well, yeah, he rebuilt the Nets, but that took years. Years of not only rebuilding, the years of the Nets taking on bad contracts with first-round picks attached to them, years of just always getting the lottery, years of highly scouting. The Pelicans have already gone through that, and these aren't going to be Kenny Atkinson's players. He's going to look at it and say, well, who's going to fit my scheme and who's not? Is Lonzo Ball going to be my Spencer Dinwiddie, or is he going to be Lonzo Ball? And then I could just see them either cutting or trading a couple of players because they foolishly gave up on Alvin Gentry way too soon.
And I think that's going to – I know we probably got to wrap this up, but that's all I'm going to say is I'm pretty sure this might – I have to first see who they bring in to replace him.
Yeah.
But I could see this becoming a big blow to Brandon Ingram's growth.
It's
because
going to be a big blow to Brandon Ingram's growth, Zion's growth, Josh Hart's growth. It's gonna hurt all of them.
and as a franchise, you don't want to have your star player in Zion go through 5 different coaches. Like you want consistency. At least give Alvin Gentry that one extra year to prove with no minute restrictions what he can do with this team.
I say 1 or 2 extra years, especially with COVID. You don't know what's going to happen next year.
Oh yeah.
Just keep him on for at most 2 years, and once things settle down and you get to see how your players are, you get to see how they play under his system, because now you have Zion, now you have more years of Zion, Hart, Lonzo, Ingram all playing together. Then you get a better idea of, okay, does this work under Gentry's system, or is it Gentry himself that's holding these players back? Because now they're going to have to learn a whole new system. Now this coach could be like, well, you know what? Zion's too big. I'm going to have him work out like crazy and lose all this weight, even though we've been saying that for a while. But it's just, if it wasn't broke, don't fix it. And I don't think this situation was broken. I think this is just bad management, especially on David Griffin, who people commend him for going over the luxury tax.
The job he did in Cleveland
to get LeBron a championship. But honestly, when you have LeBron, all you have to do is say, LeBron, what player?
You got LeBron and Kyrie Irving. It's hard to not be a great team.
Yeah, and you look at him when LeBron and Kyrie weren't there. A lot of questionable decisions. The cycle repeats itself. But we have to end on lighter news, because happy days for the Smith family. Alex Smith, if you all recall, quarterback of the Washington football team. No, we are not calling them by that old name. He has been cleared to play.
Thank God.
And thank
God bless.
Because that was a scary injury to watch.
Nasty injury.
Nasty, terrible injury. Everyone thought it was going to be career-ending. He even had a scare where he almost lost his life because of an infection that got in that broken leg.
Mm-hmm.
And now he got cleared to play by Washington. Obviously, Dwayne Haskins is a starter still.
But, yeah, for sure.
But Alex Smith, he can play again. And I know there won't be any preseason games this year, but with Washington's expectations so low, I could see him, if Dwayne Haskins struggles halfway through the year, just get him some reps.
Yeah. I mean, we're past the day of age now where age defines quarterbacks.
Yeah.
It's just simply, can you play or not?
Yep.
And last time we seen Alex Smith, he was looking pretty good. Wasn't nobody sitting here saying Alex Smith can't play. He led Washington, I believe, to the playoffs. So we know the kid can play. And then with Ron Rivera, Terry McLaurin, they got weapons there. So you look at it theoretically, you're like, wow, okay, Dwayne Haskins is going to be the starter for sure. But if Dwayne Haskins has this team sitting at 1-10, and he looks like he's the sole reason why this team is 1-10, I don't think they will hesitate to put Alex Smith in there.
And, at first I was thinking like, oh, well, you know what, Dwayne Haskins, your Washington career, it's over, because now the guy that Washington signed on that max deal away from the 49ers, from the Chiefs, from the Chiefs, they're like, well, we signed him to a max deal. He's our guy. Well, Dwayne Haskins was just a placeholder until Alex Smith comes back. But Dwayne Haskins can learn a lot from Alex Smith.
Yeah.
Look at what Patrick Mahomes learned from Alex Smith. Look at what Colin Kaepernick learned from Alex Smith.
And I've seen a lot of these new workout videos Dwayne Haskins is putting out. He's looking a lot more slim, a lot more nimble on the feet. And I think this is going to be a big year for Dwayne Haskins. I almost drafted him in our fantasy league, George, as a sleeper kind of hoper. Let's see what he does kind of pick. Because, I'm encouraged by the things I've seen from Dwayne Haskins. Everything I'm hearing in camp is he's looking like he's ready to, really grab the horns of this. Like, let's be real. When they threw him into the season last year, he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready, not in the slightest. The team itself was shitty.
And that was all Gruden's fault. That was all Jay Gruden's fault for not getting this boy ready, knowing the quarterback situation that he has. You're not going to ride Colt McCoy for very long
to the playoff. No. So I think now with him getting a full like I know there's no, like you said, there's no preseason, no OTAs right now. But the fact that he's going to be able to, just the additional year of being in the league, understanding how fast defenses are.
Yeah.
Another year with Terry McLaurin, and I know they lost these guys, but AP's still there, and they got a sneaky chance to be sneaky decent. Now, what I mean decent, do I think they'll win 6 games, 5 games? Probably not. But can they win 3-4 games and lose a couple of competitive ones? Sure.
And that's the key, because everyone just looks at wins and losses and say, oh well, this obviously ain't working. But if Dwayne Haskins looks good next year and he plays well despite them going 3-13 or 4-12,
like if he has 23 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, that's a good year.
Yeah. Or not even that. I would say just 23. I would say like 20-something touchdowns and maybe like 12-something, 10 to 15 interceptions. That's even a good year, because you're obviously getting more touchdowns and turnovers. And then it's obviously like, all right, well, we need to look at our offensive line. We need to look at other skill positions that can protect. And
get another running back in there,
another running back to help AP if he doesn't retire. So that's where you can see, okay, well, Dwayne Haskins has the potential. And then Alex Smith, now that he's healthy, can say, all right, well, clearly he's mentally done. Like, he's getting sacked 6 times in the first half. Yeah. Get him out of there. Give him the break. Alex Smith, he's a game manager. He knows when to throw the ball away. He knows not to take the sack. Yeah. When to take a sack, when not to take a sack. And Alex Smith, I think, is going to be a true blessing for Dwayne Haskins.
I think so, too.
But that's going to be it for us, guys. Thank you so much for listening. As always, make sure you follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, subscribe on YouTube, hit the bell icon and say notified. We are going to slowly transition into weekly episodes, so be on the lookout for that announcement. We love you guys so much for listening. Thanks. Take care, and we will come back discussing the NBA playoffs. Both take care, hopefully.